Welcome back, data leaders and Python learners. Revolutionize your Python backend with FastAPI. Supercharge your FastAPI. What's the problem you're facing? Making APIs fast with the data. We want to move the data in the Python execution environment to the internet. However, the internet speaks JSON. The browser, the JavaScript servers, the JavaScript frontend, everything speaks JSON. We have to give what the internet asks for. How are we going to do that? There is two approaches for this. When you are going to use any of those approaches, you have to first of all bring the data to the Python execution environment. That is the first thing. So whether you are having it in the data in the database, whether you are having it in the warehouse, whether you are having it in any other API. So it could be that also, right? You want to take the data from other API and do some process and then send it to another API. You can do that also. We will see that. But how to work on all these things and then manage to get the data to your API server endpoint. That is our target. For that, we are going to use Pandas. You might be surprised. Okay, where Pandas came into picture suddenly. We were there should be SQL alchemy or there should be some kind of ORM and all those stuff, right? Okay, regarding this SQL alchemy, ORM, working with database and interfacing Pandas with that backend, I have taken a separate video. This particular video is about moving the data from the Python execution environment, that is Python execution environment, to internet. Okay, this is the challenge FastAPI does, and it does in a very efficient fashion. For that, FastAPI, Python, and various other supporting libraries help. Okay, we are going to use that FastAPI environment, Python environment, along with Pandas object. This is what you have to clearly understand. Okay. So without further ado, next I will be going into Jupyter notebooks and we will see what we are going to do. Okay, let us go to the Jupyter notebook. So if you have not downloaded the repo where all the necessary data is already present, you can actually go to this particular link that you see here and you can download the repo. Okay. Also, if you are not aware of how to come up to speed with Jupyter, or you want to you are still not comfortable with GitHub and Git, I'll be tagging those videos along with these videos. I have separate videos for that, which introduces all these concepts. You can use those things, and once you are comfortable with it, you can come to the video again. It will not take you a lot of time. So I have ensured that you can come up to speed in a rapid pace. Okay, those videos will help you on that. Now coming to the Jupyter notebook here, once you download the repo, you will find all the data here. The data, if you click on this, you will see, you can actually explore this repo. Let me go back to my Jupyter notebook. Jupyter notebook server will look like this. So click here, you need to go into projects, and inside the project, FastAPI_server. Here we need to look at FastAPI intro implementation notebook. We will look into requesting_FastAPI later. Let us click on this. It will open a new notebook tab. It will open a new browser tab. Okay. And in the browser tab, what we are going to do is, first of all, we are going to import number of supporting libraries. So we will be importing Pandas. We will be working with Pandas. We will be importing datetime. We will be importing JSON. So these three are very important. These datetime, JSON, Pandas are going to be extremely important. We are going to first work with the data, and then if you scroll down, you will see a lot of information that is still going on. And here is where the server actually starts. From here only we are going to start working on the server. Okay. Okay, this is where we are going to start working on the server. But what are we going to serve? What data are we going to serve? How to come up with that data? So for that, what I have thought about is that there is a separate video that I have taken on Streamlit. Streamlit is another Python library which helps you to create dashboards. Dashboards that is like this. Okay, and Streamlit does it with simply using Pandas objects only. So there is a separate video on this. What I have done is, whatever data that is creating these dashboards, right? These dashboards are created using Python data. We are going to create the API endpoint that can actually deliver this data without actually delivering the chart. It will deliver only the data. So what I mean by this? So just give me a second. So I am back. So what I have done is I have basically executed all these cells that you are seeing here. So I have executed it. I have gone to cell, this particular cell. I have given run all. Okay. And it has run everything and it has come and stopped here. So if the star mark is there, then it means that this cell is running. This particular cell will actually start the server. Okay. Don't worry about that. I will explain to you more detail in a moment. So once you get this server up and running, there should not be any error here. Okay. And then if you go to a new tab in your browser, in the same browser, if you go to a new tab and if you give this IP 127.0.0.1 under 8000 port /docs. If you do that, when the server is running, then you will see, you will get this kind of a page. This is the interactive testing and documentation environment of FastAPI. And these are the various routes that we are going to design. Okay, I'm going to show those routes to you ahead of time. So here, if you see, if you take a look, you will see that this is the first message, serving data from hacker data table. Okay, and if you come down here and if I come and execute this, if I click on try out and if I execute, and there you see that I get all this data. Okay, this is all coming from the pandas data frame. I am not taking it from the database right now. I am directly working from the data frame. I will explain to you what is the difference in a couple of minutes. And if I go down further, so for an example, I want to actually count. Okay, I want to count some things. So I have already created an endpoint. So I click this, I execute, and if you see, I will get an output. So it says that, okay, so host Groucho Tokyo is having this many counts, and host Groucho Oregon has this many counts. What this actually does is, if I go back to my notebook, that whatever you saw, the numbers, the host and the count, so that will actually create this bar graph. And the same way, I can also create this bar graph using the data that I can get from country host. So if I click on this and if I say try out and if I execute, and you'll see that each country and each host, how many attack is happening. So I can get this information, I can use this information, and I can go here and I can create such a stack chart. So if you are not aware of how to create such kind of stack charts and how to use such kind of data structures, I would suggest that take a look at my earlier videos where I introduce these concepts in detail, how Python data structures and object work, and how to actually play with them. So that is more important. So you have to play with it in such a way that you can create anything out of it. So it's basically like a clay. So you can change it in any way you want. Now you understood that what exactly is going to be the final output. Now I am going to go step by step. Okay. For this, what I am going to do is, first of all, I am going to close this and I am going to stop this entire server. Okay, I have to restart the server, right? So what we can do is I can go to this place and I can click on running and I can click on shutdown. So once I shut down this FastAPI intro implementation, it will get shut down. And if you go here, it will say, okay, my kernel has died. So all you need to do is just close this and you can come back here and you better close this. Don't use this tab anymore. So the server will not work. And then you click again, you open a new tab and start working on that. Why I'm actually going through all this process is that when you are trying to work with Jupyter Notebook, there could be challenges that come because of corrupted kernel or corrupted server environment. Could be hundreds of reasons. Okay, so you should know how to shut down and how to restart. Okay, that is something that I wanted to share in this video. So let me start again working on this, and I have the sample underscore data in this location. You can look at the sample data by doing a cat command. I will do that. the sample data.csv. This file is actually available in the local space also. So it is available here. Okay, just a minute. So this is, I need to copy it. Just give me a moment. So there you go. So I have copied this sample underscore data CSV, and if I go here and execute this Linux command, so you can see that I can get all the data from the sample.csv. So I shouldn't be using this separately. I should use it using a pipe, and I should pipe it, and I should get only the first 5 lines. So this gives the first 5 lines. And then I have also kept the same file in my home folder also, so that it will be easier for me to refer to that. First, what I'm going to do is I am going to show you how, in case we want to work with database only. Okay, so here I am actually showing the SQLite database. So you can use this connection method, and you can create the SQLite database, and you can load the data. So this function will load the data into the database. Okay, so if you come to this function and if you execute this, it will actually load the data into the database called as SQLite database called API data.db. So this database will be available in this location. Okay, how to work with SQLite and what is the database, etc. I have explained in the earlier video. So kindly refer to that. Earlier SQL Alchemy implementation video, I have gone in detail about that. So you can take a look at that. Currently, I want to work primarily from the Pandas data frame object. So let us dive into that. These two functions will help me to do some group by activity. I will explain this as I show you the data. Okay, let me first of all execute this and keep it. In order to, you saw the data here. So you see the data. So you see that it is having date, time, host, source, port, and I mean it has some 15 different information here. However, I want to also make some changes, like the date, time. You see, I want to split it into day, month, hour, year, and actually add more columns here. So for that, I will be using Python functions. After that, I want to group by based on various categories, like host, like the country. Where is the country? Yeah, here is a country. So based on the country, based on the host, based on the hour. So we can do a group by on any data that we want. Okay, so I will show it to you as we go down into the discussion. After we group by using and count it, then we can do such charts using Streamlit. That is easy. Okay, but now we don't want charts, right? We want the data. So for that, how are we going to work? We will see. So here I have some more information on how to query the SQLite. You can you can execute this and check it. Okay, so let me proceed with this. Why I am proceeding with this is that you see, whenever I execute any of the query to the database, this is a database query. Okay, and this is called as query 1. I have assigned this query sentence to query 1 Python variable, and I used that Python variable, and I used that here. So in this function, so this function actually queries the database. Okay, so all this process I explained in the earlier videos. I'm not going to go into that. Okay, but the output is, it is a data frame. After all I query, all I do all this, whatever I told in 2 minutes back, after that I get a data frame out. Okay, how do I know that it's a data frame? By actually, you can actually check it also. So I will keep it here. This I do a lot in my videos, because the most important aspect is that you should know what kind of data type or object type in Python you are working on. If you don't understand that, right, it is extremely difficult for you to wrap around the concepts which is going to come. If I know that it's a data frame object, I know this particular object has lots of additional powers that you can use, and you can actually go to the internet and also ask properly that, okay, I'm using a data frame object and I'm facing an error. But if you don't know what object type you are using, then even asking the right question in the Google or ChatGPT will be difficult for you. That is the reason why I always, make this as a habit to check and show you. Okay, now what I'm going to do is, I am getting it as a table, right? But I already told internet does not understand data frames or any of the Python objects. It simply understands JSON. So Python ecosystem and pandas are so smart that they have created a simple function called toJSON method. So it's a method. So whenever any of the function is attached to a particular object, it is called as a method. And in another term is that it is called as attributes also. So it is kind of confusing in the beginning if you are new to Python, but as you start using the tool and start using the programming language, start creating your own objects, start playing with that, this becomes pretty easy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that method and I'm going to use something called as argument. This is actually method's argument, and I'm going to change something on this particular data. Okay, and I'm going to execute this, and let me actually print, let me just output the value inside query JSON. Okay, you'll see, okay, this is all gibberish. You don't understand what the heck is going on here, right? That is because this is actually the JSON format. Okay, so it starts with index, date, time, everything is here. Okay, and this is available for all the 10 lines that we have queried here. So this is the 10 lines that has been converted to JSON, but this is not at all readable. So to make it readable, Python has a different program called as prettyprint. So if you import pprint and if you do a prettyprint of this query one JSON, right, you will actually start liking that. Now you see it is little more readable. Okay, and to understand much better, if you actually do a prettyprint of the first data, and now you actually find out, okay, so this is this particular activity JSON.loads. So JS is actually the alias. JS is the alias of JSON. So I have imported JSON as JS. The library JSON I have imported as JS. So whatever is there inside the JSON library, the attributes, the functions, the methods, everything will be available for me if I use JS dot. So I'm using that and I am dumping it. So I am dumping the data, and once I do that, I am getting a very clean output. Now you will be questioning me, okay, why are you using JSON loads? Here you see I am just using query.json and I am using prettyprint, but why am I suddenly jumping to a new function altogether? Let me show you why. Okay, you know what happens is each and every step, the way we are going is it takes a lot of research. Usually what happens, you don't get to understand this when you are trying to explore it. So you have to also follow the same process that I am showing it to you, right? If you are going to start a new project, you need to follow the same kind of a process and explore. I'm showing you how to explore, basically, not just to create the API server. That will not take a lot of time. I can just go through this notebook and I can tell you, okay, do this, then the API server will be up and running. So it's not a very big deal, but how to actually get the things, research the things, understand the underlying objects, that is something that is missing in the world, and I want to change that. So let us actually look at query.json. Okay, and let us take the first data out. Okay, why am I not getting anything here? Because I am actually getting just the first what is that called, square bracket. So this square bracket is there, this square bracket, I'm getting that. Why is this happening? Because the moment I use this method, the moment I use toJSON, what this does is actually it converts the pandas data frame into a string. Okay, so this is why I told you need to understand what is going on, or else you will actually stumble like crazy. Okay, so if I go here and if I say it is a string, so on a string, if I ask for the first index, the first index will be this particular value, that is the square bracket, open square bracket. In order to convert the string back to JSON format, there is this particular method or this particular function called loads. Loads with a S at the end actually will load the string object. Okay, this is a string object. Query1.json is a string object inside the Python execution environment. Keep this in mind very clearly. Okay. This is a string object in Python environment. Okay. And if in case this particular string object has been written like this, okay, I have written it out to the external world. So this is a file that is external. Okay. If I have to load this file, so this is again a JSON file. Okay. This is having a JSON format. So for an example, if I have to load this file into the environment, into Python environment, what I have to do is I have to first of all read the file. Okay, how to read the file, how to work with the file, all those points I have covered in a separate video called as File Ninja. Take a look at that, you will understand it much better. But what we are going to do is now we are going to work on how to create the file. Okay, so I am going to say with open, and I am going to open this file, and I am going to just read it as tutorial, and then this is actually a file pointer. Okay, now this is a file pointer. Why? Because I opened this file and I have made it to point to this variable, and on this variable I can use, okay, let me say output is equal to js.load. I am not going to use loads. Okay, this is load, and I am going to load this file pointer. Okay, and I am going to then print. Okay, let me print type output, and then print the output also. Print the output, and let us see what happens. So first of all, you see that the type output is string. Okay, once I actually, even after I load it, the type output of the value is string, and then if I print it as output, you see it is printing in a different way. It is not printing in this way. Okay, that is because when I am actually using the load method, what is happening is it is actually converting the string, converting the file data into a JSON format. Okay, and it is then printing it. Okay, so this particular point keep in your mind, and how to work with it. It is important because converting between loads, and also there is another one function called as dump and dumps. So we'll look into that in a couple of minutes. So load and loads is for converting string objects to Python dictionaries. Okay, so that is sorry, I made a mistake. For converting string objects into JSON objects. Okay, and now what we are going to do is we are going to work on understanding the two underscore JSON options. So two underscore JSON has multiple options. If you just use, okay, I am extensively using shortcut keys in this Jupyter notebook. Okay, I am not clicking any of these buttons. I am not using my mouse. I also urge you that you understand the shortcut keys. That is actually very important to keep your understand anything faster. So understand the shortcut keys, how to work with it. Practice it for little amount of time. It will save you a lot of time later. Okay, or else you will be fumbling with the mouse. And once I actually come to 2JSON, I use the records here. Okay, if I go up, I use records. Here the option is records. But apart from that, the orient can take another 5 different options. So let me actually show that. Just a minute. Yeah, here it is. And if I use Shift Tab, it will open this particular signature, the signature of this method. And if you scroll down, you can see that it takes split, records, index, and table. So all these things can be used in this place of orient. So understanding this concept, what actually happens to the data frame when I use these options in 2JSON method is also something which is very important. The data structure changes. So let us see. When I use the split option, what is happening? I am getting only this value. So what happened to the rest of the value? Okay, the rest of the value is still there. But what has happened is, let me take this value and let me keep it here and remove this alone. And now if I pretty print, you see there is a lot more information. So there is columns and there is data. So basically what has happened is this split has actually split the columns from the data. So here you will see data and 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you will see up to 9. So there are 10 data inside this. So you will see 10 data here. Okay. So that is the point of using split. Okay. It splits the column names. So the column names at the top, I will show it to you. Column names at the top, it will split that, and the data below that, it will split it. That is the purpose of using this option. And if I actually click on this and press just O, it will actually close like this. I can, so that it will save space. Now there is index. So let us see what index does. The moment I do index, what happens is each and every data, each and every row is given as a separate index here. So this is first row, second row, and you see that all the country names and all the data inside that is coming as a separate object again. This is a different way of working. So, and this is all fully JSON. So this is also JSON. So if I come here and if I actually give 0 like this, you will see I will get only the first index, but I am not seeing any of the 0 value, etc. If I change this to 2 for that matter, I will start getting the third line. So how to know that this is the third line? You can actually check this number. So go take this number. It is 826. That is August 26, 2013, 2359. So if you go up here, you will see August 26 to 2359. So like this, you can actually find the information. You can cross check it. That is for index. Okay. Now next is for columns. So let us execute this. Here you will see that it actually splits everything up. So it says it takes all the columns, column by column. So it takes the CC column, it takes the country column, and gives everything as a column by column. Okay. This is also one way to work. I am showing this to you because you might actually need it elsewhere. So, and then this is values. So this will not give the column data at all. It will just give you the data, the values. Okay. And finally we have table. Table actually gives you a complete database table like format. So it first of all gives you the schema. Okay, this is the schema, and it also tells you the primary key. It tells you the pandas version, and then the data starts here. Okay, this is a very different way of looking at the data frame, because what will happen is this is useful when you are going to write this pandas data frame to NoSQL databases. Okay, so that is why this is given. So this is a very useful method actually. Very useful method for writing to NoSQL databases. Okay. The point here is that now you have seen all these things. Okay. So how am I going to use this? Now we are at the crossroads right now. Okay. We have to make a choice. So I can either use SQL query route or I can use pandas data frame route. Okay. So what I mean by this is that I can actually create queries like this. Okay. I can create queries like this, SQL queries, and I can query the database that I wrote to SQLite. Where is that? So here I wrote here. I have already loaded it into the SQLite database. I can use that route. The other route is that I will directly work on the pandas data frame only. I will not use the SQL query route, but work on pandas data frame. I will be choosing the pandas data frame route because, okay, the reason is that I have already done all the analysis. So all the analysis has been done in pandas, and I have created lots of functions, supporting functions, and getting the pandas data frame to convert into analysis data is very simple. And I have used the Jupyter notebook for that. So I don't need to go and work with any of the databases. So it is all inside the execution environment in the same notebook. So using that will be much more beneficial and faster also. Later, if you want, you can actually create the query separately. So that is all acceptable. But in this, we are going to use the pandas data frame route. And what here we are going to do is we will be if we decide, that okay, I want to go in data frame route only, database route only, and our company or your particular use case actually forces you to use database. At that time, what you can do is you can still use pandas data frame, okay, and then you can actually write it as separate tables, like how I did here. If you go here, where is that? Just a minute. Yeah, here if you go, each and every time whenever you want to load the data, you can actually load it into different table, and you can actually load different data frames also. So here if you see inside this function, I have actually loaded the data frame only. So this data frame I have read it from a file using read CSV, and then I have loaded that data frame only. Okay, so like this you can modify the data frame, and then you can write it as table to the database also. So that is also one way. Okay, even that way is only I am telling to you if you are going to use database as the source. But now again I am repeating again and again, because this is very important for you to understand. I am not going to use database at all. I'll be directly working on data frames that is present inside the execution environment itself. Okay, so let me show that to you as an example. This particular function, what this particular function will do is it will take a raw CSV file, the raw CSV file that I showed to you here. It will take this raw CSV file and it will create a data frame, and it will also create a lot of additional columns, and it will create a data frame, and I am actually sending this data underscore directory. So this data underscore directory is basically the that I already assigned there. So this value I will be sending it here, and I will be creating the data frame, and it will actually create the data frame, and we can see the head of it. And after that, the actual power starts. What is happening is that I have already got a couple of my functions that work with the data frame, and they group by based on the columns. So here what I'm telling is that, okay, take the clean data frame, this data frame, and group by host, group by country. And I'm also having a separate function. I say group by host and country. And then I do all these things. And so all this activity gets done in less than a second. Okay. And I have the data with me in hands. So let me show you the data. So for an example, I want to see country host filter, and I want to see how this data looks. Okay. So if I use this name, if I use this data frame variable name, country host filter to JSON orient records, and I use the convert, and you see the data here. Okay, you see the data here. That is how fast you can actually work. And now this is actually in JSON format. This JSON format, you can actually push it to the internet. It is acceptable. So in less than 5 lines of code, we have functions that has been already written, that anyway you have done when you analyze the data set. Okay, this data set, when you analyze, you created these functions. Now you are going to reuse it. So you are not going to do any additional work. But if you have to go and write these queries, right? These queries, where is that? Just a minute. Yeah, these queries are going to be different. It has to be manually written for the table, and you have to use SQL command and the syntax. But here there is the syntax that you are using is still Python syntax only, and you have already done the activity. So hope you understood the efficiency part of this activity. Okay. Now that we are also looking at the host, so I have got the host in the same way. So I have got the unique I'm using. If in case if you are not fully comfortable with pandas, I have a separate video for that also. Take a look at that video. I have gone through all these methods there. So how this unique works, how group by works, how filter works, all those things I have explained there. So take a look at that. Let me move forward. So I have created all these things, and I am also assigning all these variable values here. So this is how you test. So whenever you want to use any of the functions, you can test it like this. Okay, I've already tested it. Okay, and see what I've done here is I have taken one of the first host. So host 0 is Groucho SA, right? Groucho SA. So I have taken that and I have filtered it, and then on the filtered host, I have actually grouped by I have executed the group by call functions. So if I look at the data, it will look like this. It will look like this. Again, this is a data frame, right? This cannot be used as what is that called? JSON. So what I do is I take the necessary data and I put it as separate variables. That is one way. Or else we can use the toJSON method. So where is the toJSON? So I can use the toJSON method. So it is so fast. So if I want to change the host name, so if, for an example, if I want to use a different host, so I want to host 5. I execute this again, and if I come here, I will get a totally different data here. Okay, just by changing a number. That is the versatile nature of using Pandas data frame. And then, okay, so we have done the analysis. We are comfortable with the data that we are going to get. And now is the time when we start the FastAPI server. So it has been 35 minutes and we still did not even start our FastAPI server. So you see the actual activity of the server is much lesser. Okay. Server is going to just serve your data, but the data that you have to make the server to serve has to be prepared by you. Okay. So all I am doing here is I am importing certain functions, classes, and methods from FastAPI. Okay, you need only these two from FastAPI. Even status also you don't need. All you need is this class. Okay. When you are actually running a real server, when you are going to go for a production server, that is going to be much more challenging. So give me a moment. I'll be back. Okay, I'm back. As I was explaining that you have to just take this class and this particular body and also the list. So these are all required when you are actually working on the actual deployment server. Here, as I was explaining, that we are going to work on the bare bones FastAPI server. This is actually required. I have seen in the other locations, right? Other videos and other books and documents, they don't actually go to this bare bone kind of explanation. Why I am doing this is because that once you understand the basics, right, or once you understand the skeleton of something, then you can attach whatever you want. Okay, you can actually augment it, you can make good aesthetics around that skeleton, and you can make it look good. But the skeleton has to be really, really strong. Okay, so let us go into, let us start the server. So I have already started, I have not started the server. I have just attached this particular class type to query underscore server Python object, Python variable. Okay, this is not Python object, it's a Python variable. Now this query underscore server can be used as a decorator. So whenever we are going to use an @ symbol like this, and if we give this value over the top of a function, this decorator will augment this function. Okay, and I am going to execute this. So you need to, okay, why this error has come? Okay, because I have not executed this. So let me execute this. Okay, why this error has come? Okay, because I have not executed that. So execute this. So now everything will start working. So give it a moment, and now it will work. And the first and foremost, the root of the API server has been created, and the root of the API server will return this message. And you see this message is actually a JSON. It's in the JSON format. Okay, and it will return that. Now I'm not going to do anything. Okay, I have just created only one root. I am not going to work on any of these roots. Okay, I'm going to go down and I'm going to execute this by using Control Enter. And once I do Control Enter, it will start the server like this. And click on this. Just click on this by pressing the Control key on your keyboard, and it will start, and it will immediately say get HTTP1 200 OK. So 200 OK. This is actually the status output of any of the query that is given to the API server. And this is the server address, and this is the port, and this is the method that was used, the same method that you see here that I have attached to this get. So that is the same method that is actually telling. Now go to this location, that is the tab that it opened. So 1270.0.1 8000, you will see the same message. Okay, so now we have received our first output from the API server, FastAPI server. Okay, come back here. We actually did not do anything. What we did, we actually imported this methods. We created this variable. We gave this function decorator, and then we executed this particular code. Okay, this particular code has to be executed in the separate script. Okay, but this is Jupyter environment. This environment is already inside a server. So for that, I had to do some kind of additional research. So based on the research, I understood that I can use nest_async.io. So this is one of the Python libraries, and I can use that to nest server inside the server. Okay, this is a little bit of a meta. So just bear with it. Okay, so you have to just follow this, and you will get the server. So don't worry about how this is done as of now. You will understand it later. Okay, so we have the server here, and this is how the raw data looks, and this is the parsed data. So this raw and parsed data, whichever you are seeing here, this is coming because of a plugin. So check in your Chrome browser for the JSON plugin, you will get this. Okay, but that is, we don't want to look at this like this. So we have to go for docs. So click on docs, and you will get the docs. The FastAPI docs. So FastAPI itself creates the documentation automatically based on the server root that you are giving. So this is the root. So this is the root of the API server or the endpoint. So someone will call it as root, someone will call it as endpoint, but call whatever you want. Okay. But the most important point is that you need to understand what is the location. So why I am calling this as root. Okay. Why I'm calling this as root is because this is the root of the server. So by default, when I give this particular IP and this port number, it will open to this default route. Okay, this will open to this default route, and it will give me this message. This is the first and foremost activity that the server will do. Okay, it is also telling C default route, and then we can attach how many routes we want. Okay, and all the routes will have a method, most important, and it will has to return, and the return has to be in JSON format. This is the basic of getting up and running with FastAPI server. So yes, we are done. Okay, so you have the server, we are done. Now what we are going to do is we are going to use the Pandas data frame and the Python execution environment itself to add more routes to the server. Okay, so what routes we are going to add? We are going to add query_data route. Wait a minute, I think there is an issue here. So there is two routes with the same name actually. So that is not acceptable. So you cannot use two routes with the same name. So it will create a confusion. So we have to remove one of the route so that it will not create a confusion. So I will be removing this route. So I will make this as a, okay, so this will not execute anymore. And now let us start working on the other activity. So now that the server is running, so once the server is running, whatever you do here, if you change any of these things, if you actually even execute this, so let us, for an example, where is the server running? So this one. So let us execute this, and you'll see that the execution will not complete. So this will stay star for a long time because this particular Jupyter environment, this particular server is stuck right now in this cell. So this is actually in loop. So you have to break this loop. So you have to say interrupt the kernel, and once you say interrupt the kernel, the application will shut down will happen. And if you go here and if you do a refresh, you'll see that the server is no more reachable. Okay, so and now after you do this, then we can actually add more routes to the server, but ensure that you again do the import, then you again assign, make the new assignment to the query_server. You don't need to change the name. Okay, you have to reassign it so that this is a new server data type, and then you again assign the default route. You assign query data. Okay, what this route does, this route actually goes and queries the database that is already available. I told you, right? This is actually using the database route. I'm just showing it to you how it works. Even after it queries, I'm using 2_JSON, I'm using orient records, and then I'm going to print and also return. So both I'm going to do. Okay, so let me execute this. That is executed. This is not required. This is just to show how the output will look. So let us actually execute this, and I will show the how the output looks. Unique info, and I'm going to give clean data frame, and you'll see the output will look like this. Okay, this is actually a dictionary format, but it has been dumped using json.dumps. Okay, so this is a good point that I forgot to tell. So you see this particular function, what it is doing is it is actually introducing you to the concept of serializing the Python objects. Serializing and deserializing the Python objects is a confusing topic. Okay, so keep this in mind. So whenever you want to convert Python objects into string that can be written into files, then you have to use dumps. Okay, dump. So if you want to dump the Python object, so let me actually make a comment. If you want to dump the Python object into a string, then use dumps. Okay, forget about serializing, deserializing. Okay, it is very difficult to remember. If you want to dump the Python object into a file, then use dump. Okay, this is opposite to load. Okay, the loads that you're using, and this is opposite. So dumps is opposite to loads, and both are inside the JSON library only. Okay, and let me show you how the dump works. Okay, here I can use that, I can show it to you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take to dump file, and I say unique info. So the same the same output, right? I'm going to write it to dump file. Okay, and to dump variable, and I'm going to use with open a new file. Okay, just any file. Okay, text file, and I'm going to open it as write. I'm going to write to the file. Okay, and write pointer, this is the pointer object for this file, and inside this file what I'm going to do is I'm going to use json dot dump. Okay, and I'm going to dump this object to dump file. Okay, so if you actually do shift tab, if you do shift tab, you'll see object and fp. These are the two things you need to remember. So object is equal to dump file, and file pointer is wp. Okay, the right pointer. Okay, and then once you execute it, why am I getting this error? WP is not defined. What is wrong here? So I have already defined, but you see I have told it as and, not as. So I should actually make it as. Once you do that, it would have got written. So where? Just go back, close this, go back. You see there is a new file, click on that, and you'll see that the data has been written. So this is how you work with dump and dumps. Okay. Also the loads, we will see that if you are going to load it from the file, like if you are going to load it from this file, as I already explained, then you have to use load. And if you are going to load it from a string, okay, then you have to use loads. Okay, we are loading it from string here. Okay, just to make it more clear, we are loading the JSON object from string object below. Okay, this is just for your reference and my reference also. And after this, I showed you how to dump it and how to write it. These things, it comes with practice. So practice a lot. And here we see that I have a couple of endpoints, and all these endpoints are using a lot of existing data frames. So this is all existing data frames. So all these data frames I have already created it and kept it here. Okay, so I have kept it here. So all these things are the benefit of the Python environment, and you don't need to do anything inside the endpoint. So remember that whenever you are calling the endpoint, it is going to execute this function. Okay, and once you call the endpoint, it will execute. If you are going to do any kind of processing here, right, it is going to take time to return the data to the end user. And in internet, the faster you return, the better it is. So avoid any kind of processing inside the endpoint. Keep the processing outside the endpoint. Only return, use the data. Even this, right? Even this to JSON, I would have actually put it outside the endpoint. However, in order to show it to you, I am actually updating the data in this location. So inside the endpoint itself. Okay. So let me execute these things. So it has got executed. So this is again an example to show you how the indent works in dumps. Okay. And so this is unique info and this is filter host. This filter host is little different. Okay, the rest of the things are having just get function, and these functions below that is not get method, not function, get method. These functions below that get method does not have any kind of variable or any kind of parameter or argument. Here you see there is an argument and it is saying your_host. What happens is that when you are going to use this particular endpoint, you can actually change the endpoint by using this variable. Let me show you how okay, let me first of all execute this. Okay, what will happen is this your host can be used as a filter option. You can use this variable inside. Let me also okay, let me print this because anyway I have not started the server. Let me print the your host so that we can see that later. Okay, how this works. When we start the server. So whenever you change this your host, you will see that this particular endpoint will print the your host variable, and then it will use it for filtering the data frame, and that filtered data frame will be grouped, and from the grouped data frame we are getting all these values, and after getting those values we are using those values and creating the dictionary, and then we are using the dictionary and returning it as JSON format. Okay, we are doing all these things, and this particular activity I had done it already for Streamlit project, so I'm reusing it. Okay, I am being lazy here. The point is that programmers are lazy, so there's nothing wrong. The point here is that look at this point, that where I have actually typecasted integer from this value. If you go and take a look at this value, so let us actually go up and take a look at this value. There's an example of this. You will see the value is 12, and if I actually take a look at the type of this, you will see that it is wait a minute, the ilog method and how it works. I have all covered it in Pandas video, so take a look at that. If you see that this number 12 is actually numpy.int64. This numpy.int64 cannot work with dumps. Okay, so you have to convert it into simple integer object type that Python creates. You cannot use this. Keep this in mind because I struggled a lot today morning. So I was not knowing that this is the problem that I was facing. So understand that whenever you are facing errors, then you will find such nuggets of information especially in programming, especially in Python. So now that we have understood how these things work, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to restart the server. So let us restart. And once you restart, it will actually show something like this, nothing different, right? When I actually created this particular only one route, also it was showing the same thing, and now also it is showing the same thing. So let us actually see, is there anything different? Okay, nothing different as of now. There is a change in the port number, but rest is all same. Now I come here to that tab that it opened, and then now is the magic. Okay, if I use docs and if I press enter, you'll see the entire API documentation is right in front of you. So all the data is available right in front of you. And I will start by querying one by one. Okay, so execute. You'll see that I will get all the data, all the 10 rows, all the first 10 rows that you see in the data frame, you will get it here. Okay, now let us go down again. So let us see country and host. So what this, so I click on tryout, click on execute, and you see all the data here. And then go down, look at the host count, and I say tryout again, execute, and you'll see all the host counts. And attack by which countries, I look at, execute. Okay, there goes, all the data is out. And show host, I just want to see the hosts. So I say tryout, execute, and I get all the hosts. Okay, and I say unique info, try execute, I get all this. So it is coming out as a string. So you see that, right? And then I come to the filter host, but this is going to be different. So it is saying that your host string required. So in this place, when you say tryout, you can actually put a value here. Okay, and if I say Groucho Tokyo, so I just enter Groucho Tokyo and then execute, you'll see that it will return the data of that particular host. So all the data of that particular host. Okay, so we have actually completed the entire API development in less than 1 hour. You should have actually done the analysis little earlier. That would have taken 3 to 4 hours, and developing this API server will take 1 hour. So for any particular data set, in a day, in 8 to 10 hours, you can actually develop a API server. So it is possible. Now you come to the server and you see that it has filled out a lot of data here. So what has happened? So basically what has happened is we have actually given print statement in every location. Okay, inside the API endpoint, we are given print. So wherever we are given print statement, right, it has printed the data there. Okay, so if I come and look at the filter host, print, I have told print your host, right? So if you come and look at the last one, you see that, where is it? Yeah, here. So you see that here. So this is actually printing the host. Okay, wait a moment. It has actually not printed the host. Why it does not printed the host? Just a minute. So it has actually converted, it has taken the your host, this value, and it has equated to the value that we gave here. So we gave the value. What value have we given? We have given Groucho Tokyo, and it actually equated it, and it created the URL like this. Okay, and you can check this also here. But sorry, you can see that here also. So you see that this is the URL. Okay, so now I have to understand why it did not print it. Let me look into that, and I will update this video or provide an update in the comment later. But I want to actually show you one more important point. Now you have this API server running. Okay, now how can you actually do some requests to the server? Yes, you can. That is where this file comes. So I have created the separate file which actually requests the data to your server, your own server. Okay, so for that we are going to use import request and import JSON. Okay, and I am going to use the same thing. So I am going to use Groucho Tokyo, and this URL server URL that this has given request URL, I am going to use that. Okay, and I am going to use request method get, and I am going to give URL equal to URL, and I am going to execute. And once I execute, you will see the reply is string. Okay, this data reply is string, and then once you convert that, you will get the data in the JSON format. But okay, don't listen to me. So let us actually do some more requests to different URLs. Okay, and see what happens. That is how you experiment, right? So let us actually go back and let us request something much more longer. Yeah, this one look good. So let us request this particular URL. Okay, take this. Actually, yeah, you cannot copy that. So take this and come to this place, change this URL to the attack by URL, and I'm going to remove this. Okay, and I'm going to print the data. Okay, so here you see all the data is out. Okay, So this is how you actually send the request to your own database. That is one more way. Okay, this is not the only way to send the request. Before actually Python was invented, there were web servers. Okay, so how did that work? At that time we used something called as curl. So this curl is a command line application. Okay, and you can just copy this. You can again come to Jupyter Notebook, because Jupyter Notebook can execute the Linux command also. So I give this value here. Okay, and if I execute, this will again give me the data. But this time what is actually happening is this is not done by Python. This is done by curl. So let me prove it to you. Okay, so let me go to the terminal now. Okay, in the terminal I'm going to, this is nowhere linked with Python. This is just a terminal running, it's a shell command prompt. I'm going to paste the, okay, wrong. I'm going to paste the request and I'm going to query it. So let us actually make it a little more, yeah. I'm not going to listen to the way I am getting it. I'm going to do it manually. Okay, and I'm going to execute. And you see the data coming out, the same data. So this is how you query using multiple ways. Let us go back to the Internet Explorer. So now we have seen that our database, our API server is working and it is giving the data the way we want. Now that the data is coming in JSON format, that you can use it on any of your applications, your front-end applications. So this JSON can be used with JavaScript libraries like Svelte, or front-end applications like React. You can use it with that also, and you can use this database reply and work with that. You can also use this reply with Flask also, and Django, Python's own web development applications. You can use it with that too, because this is just a simply a server. Okay, so as we have seen, we have actually completely understood. So let us go back to the presentation. So we have come a complete circle. So we have started with the creating of the API object. We did the analysis. We must have done the analysis in a separate place. So this analysis activity that I have done is already done as a separate video. So you can take a look at that. And we wrote a lot of functions, and we use the functions to call whenever the API endpoint is queried. And we used all the supporting libraries to develop the application, develop the server. So we have also seen how we can use database query method, and also how to use, how to work with files. So we have seen that also. So yeah, so we have come a complete circle, and I hope you like this content, and stay tuned for the next video where I'll be delving deep into PySpark, the library for big data environment. And I hope you like this content. Leave a like, and if you want to share it with others, feel free to share it, and subscribe to my channel so that whenever I upload new videos, you will get the notification in your YouTube dashboard. So you can be aware that new videos come out. So till next time, till the next video comes out, stay tuned and have a great time. Practice is more important. The data is already available in the internet. Also, you can check one of the other API servers that is, I have already hosted it. This is a model server, API server, again done using FastAPI only. You can check this out also, and you will see that this is from a different data set altogether. So then see you guys till the next video. Have a nice time. Thanks for watching.